The things Elon Musk achieved over the last few days have been just mind-boggling. Today, we'll share some big mysteries that have been unpacked about the Cybercab. Was the Robotaxi rides all fully autonomous? What did Lars Morvey say about Hardware 3 cars being able to do Robotaxi? Why did Elon not invite the press? We'll also review the design of the two-seater Robotaxi, and what about its design is pure brilliance. Can they just put a steering wheel and pedals to make this the $25,000 compact car? And finally, why Salesforce might actually be one of the first major customers for TeslaBot. Jeff Lutz is a multi-decade supply chain executive and chief quality officer. He's now CEO of his own high-tech manufacturing consulting firm. Jeff, this is exactly the show I wanted to talk to you about. Everything that we're going to talk about hasn't really been discussed by many people, and your background is perfect. And I know you've got a lot to say about this. Thank you so much for joining me, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Herbert. We all view these events through, I think, different lenses. So hopefully I can help provide some insights. It was really an exciting weekend all around.
Yeah, very exciting. So obviously the big news is here is the Cybercab. This has been revealed. It's amazing. I want you to walk me through the design because it is so, perfect. There's a reason for everything. And there's a reason why they designed this way. This is additional photos that they shared. It just, obviously it's a, prototype, but they had 20 out there. So this color, gold or silver, we don't know yet. We don't know the materials, but I want you to comment on, we'll go deeper into the doors and the back and the seats and so forth, how that was clearly designed to look this way. You got Ashok Alaswamy making him actually swear, robo effing taxi. Big deal. So the first question everybody was asking was, were these Teslas at the event, were they running FSD version 13? And what we know now from actual, Tesla engineers is that actually, yes, it was running version 13 and it was not teleoperated, these cars that were driving there. And that shocked me a little bit if that was true, but brilliant. What's your thoughts about the actual version that they used there?
Yeah, I'm not so mired in the version number. The cars were clearly running autonomously. The bots, you didn't have to be a brain surgeon to know that there were engineers around each bot. Some had laptops open, and it was clear that there was some portion of it that was AI driven, the walking and so forth. And there were some portions of it, some portions of the movement, and of course the speaking that were not. That's fine. The purpose was to actually show, and I was at the original AI day when the first bot was rolled out. I was sitting in the third row, and in basically 24 months time, could you imagine the progress to see an army of these things walking out and interacting amongst people, behind a bar, grabbing glasses, serving drinks. It was really to show off the movement of the current generation bot and what the capability is. Because remember, Tesla already has generalized autonomy working to some level, to some error rate in the vehicle already. So, and now and what has Tesla been doing for the decades up to that point? They were getting the vehicle right. They were getting the efficiency right. They were getting the engineering right. And then now the AI comes in behind it. Well, what are they doing with the bot? They're doing the same thing. They're getting the engineering right. Think about the mass. Think about the materials. Think about the movement, the capability. And of course, we saw the new hand and forearm on display and the type of movement that we saw right in front of our eyes. It was unbelievable. There is nothing like that type of movement. I've not seen anything like that out in the market. And the difference between when Tesla shows something and when others show something is Tesla has the manufacturing prowess and supply chain prowess, the design team, the engineering. They have the prowess to actually put what they're showing into production. So that's what impressed me. The vehicles were autonomous. I think I was surprised to see more than 20, or so of the Cybercabs. That was a little surprising. And the rest were threes and Ys. That tells me that they're beyond the point of doing all the industrial design work. They're beyond the point of that handoff between Franz's team and the engineering team of, how are we going to build this thing? And now they're really entering more into execution mode and doing the actual engineering work, call it the industrial design phase, this, what it looks like. And then that handshake between that team and engineering, which is, can I do this? And of course, operations is involved. Can we actually do what you've, visualized here? And how, and where do things go? Like, how are we going to package this device? I believe they're beyond that stage. Now, is the design locked? Like, are the parts locked? Are they releasing to suppliers? Of course not. Otherwise, they would be in production, here very soon. So they're going to have to go through this phase gate process of the engineering process on the vehicle. But to me, they're kind of like, they know what they want to do. And now it's about that execution of it, which they're very good at.
Perfect. That is exactly the question I was about to ask you, because they had 20 of these cybercabs there. So you have launched products before, you know what it's like. If you're just doing a demo, you just take the blankets off and show one prototype car. Some people might actually have one that's driving one. This one had 20 that we all got in and experienced. So let's so a couple more really important points that has been discovered is Kim Java interviewed Lars Morvey and Franz von Hausen, and they confirmed things that Elon didn't confirm yet, but these guys did. One, that you can actually remove the steering wheel from the Cybertruck. So let's reserve that conversation right after we watch this video, which is, if you can remove the steering wheel from the Cybertruck because it's steered by wire, you could add a steering wheel to the Cybercab possibly. And could that not be the Model 2, the cheaper car? The other question everybody has been having is, are the Hardware 3 cars, the old 2018 Model 3s, the 2020 Model 3s, are they able to run FSD now? This is what they said here.
Steering wheel, that's like ready to go too, with like regulations, everything.
Cybertruck doesn't have a steering wheel.
It's really happening.
Cybertruck is steered by wire.
It's
on the road. You can take the wheel out right now.
And it will completely drive right now. What about like some of the older vehicles? Like, would they be, or you have that steer by wire?
We have been putting the hardware in for years and years and years and building up the redundancy since like 2014 when we first announced it.
So what about, like, I have a 2018 Model 3, one of the early build Model 3s. What would that need to be like Robotaxi?
Are you hardware 3 or hardware 4?
It has hardware 3 in it. Yeah. Would you still be able to use that?
Good to go.
It's good to go, even with hardware 3.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Are you using full self-driving right now?
I'm using full self-driving right now in our Model 3.
How do you like it?
I love it. I love it right now. We made a couple videos.
It's going to get better.
Full self-driving.
I actually just tested it. I did a video testing the Cybertruck as well with it, and it was so good. It was flawless. It was amazing. I was like so thrilled. I actually had read some reviews, and I was like, I'm not sure what we're going to expect today. And it was so much better.
Try it for yourself.
Headlines get attention, but it was so good, and I loved it. And I was like, okay, and that's why I was so excited for today.
So the future is like right now.
It's right now.
Happening.
It's so cool. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate everything you've done.
Wow, they were in good mood. They answered the questions pretty freely. But this idea of hardware 3, not only did they say, no, it's going to work, but so did James Dama confirm that it's not, the hardware is not the issue. It's the software, and hardware is just going to be fine. So yeah, what's your thoughts on what you heard there?
Pretty big nugget that was revealed there. One is, if you've studied Tesla over the last several years, one of the things they do is they want to control the amount of models that they're building in the factory. They want that gives you the great. If you're not spending time changing over between models, when you're changing over between models, you're not utilizing your equipment, and therefore your costs go up, and therefore you're not getting product out to people. So they want to minimize changeover. They want to build fewer number of models as possible. That's why you see Tesla launch something, see what works, see what doesn't work, and then they delete options over time. So what I heard a couple of really important nuggets there. One is, I believe the Cybertruck did not there wasn't a must for it to be steered by wire, but they're using that as, to me, that not only the development but the production platform to get steer by wire right and working in Teslas, in EVs, in software with their autonomy running, because they're going to have to do steer-by-wire at scale when they do the Cybercab. And what I believe this is all a buildup for getting that right in the Cybertruck, so then you can do that at scale for the Cybercab. And this whole comment of you could remove your steering wheel on the Cybertruck, I don't believe that they were literally telling customers of Cybertrucks today that they can go out and do that because the software hasn't enabled that and so forth and yada yada. But it could be something that could be done or done with a service center in the future. And what does that do? That allows Tesla to have one model, that one superset that leaves the factory. So you have to focus on, am I building with and without steering wheels? Of course, you'd love to delete the steering wheel and to delete that cost from your bill of materials if you're a manufacturer. But what you really want to do is, if you have to put it in there, you're going to charge the customer for it. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to build with and without, because that changeover in your factory is time not well spent. It's inefficient, and you're not getting product out. So I believe they are, given everything that I've just told you, is I believe Tesla is building up a platform where it is going to be a removable in the future at the customer level. And that means so much the customer's doing it themselves, maybe not, but more of it's coming out of the factory in one way. And if you want to drive your car, great. And if you want it to not have it, I think you'll have that option. I believe they're building up to that option, and that's some of what I extracted there. I could be wrong, but just given their genealogy of how they do manufacturing and how they try to minimize models and how they try to simplify, to me this makes sense. And they've also had the same conversation about deleting the rear view mirror and the side mirrors on the Cybertruck as well. So I believe they're carrying this concept forward, and there could be some real fungibility in these vehicles.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. So first of all, I'm just absolutely so happy that you're here talking about this, because apologize in advance for the audience, but I'm going to say so many times as we go through the stories here that Jeff called it right. He was talking about it for months because there's so many points we're going to go through one at a time. The one point that you've called it correctly was, everybody's going, oh my God, they're going to reveal the $25,000 lower cost car. It's like, no, they're not going to do that. And yet every analyst, that's what they were expecting. You had this post that went viral. You said this, Osborning. That's why they're not going to reveal the lower cost car at this event. Anyone who's done product at scale before, and if you've done it before, knows that while you have units in channel and another 12 to 15 billion of material on order, CapEx tied to that material, you don't discuss the follow-on products with near-term likely unavailability until they're ready to replace what you have in channel. As the OEM, you must have line of sight ability to wind down your existing liability. Otherwise, the financial consequences are so great they present enterprise risk. This is why we did not hear about lower cost interim vehicles shipping in 2025. Before the Robotaxi last night, Tesla has moved the guidance to the earnings deck and will launch them to the public when they're ready for channel entry, not before. Yeah, so you knew that they weren't going to reveal this. What's final thoughts on that one?
And I'm surprised to see all of the analyst notes on this, it's almost like they were trying to will this to happen so it could, be a something you can populate into a spreadsheet. And I'm not down on analysts. Analysts want to see how earnings are going to grow. So I understand why they were asking for that, but to kind of they almost made it consensus that Tesla's going to, show off a compact vehicle that they're going to start production on imminently. And it clearly they were not going to do that. They're going to do that. And right now, Tesla's at a stage in their company that they've never been at before. The last high volume vehicle that they introduced was the Model Y. The Cybertruck, there was nothing in channel to replace. It was its own thing. But the Model Y, when they introduced the Model Y, they only produced a couple thousand, in the first quarter. And there's really no expectations of having this massive channel fill on the device. It would have been great if they did. Now it's completely different. Now they have a supply chain, they have a machine running, they have a sales channel machine running that's basically doing about 500,000 units a quarter. And you can just do the math on what you think their direct material costs are. You can do the math on what you think their CapEx is, and you can see then what kind of liabilities on the line. I think I'm undercalling it per se, maybe on the 12 to 15 billion, maybe it's more. But you can see what kind of risk there is. That's half of their, their cash pile. And it's not saying that the demand for those products would go to zero if this new beautiful compact was released that's lower cost but has all this amazing capability. I'm not saying the 3-in-Y would go to zero, but there would be a huge cut in that. And what is unrecoverable from an operations and supply chain perspective is when you start ramping up that liability, and it's called excess and obsolescence, E&O. It's that's the term that's used. It's one of the biggest lines in unit economics. And it's, when I say the lines, it's one of the biggest cost lines in unit economics. And there's industry measures for this. You're supposed to drive this to some 0 decimal point of a percent of your average selling price. That's the target you try to do for each product. I believe Tesla is masterful at minimizing E&O, and they do it a couple of ways. One is they carry low inventory. They burn through their inventory and they turn it very quickly. And they have a very low model count. Very low. Remember, to do about the same number of EVs that Tesla does, pure EVs, BYD has 21 models, and the Tesla's 4 or 5 models. Yes, with some variants. Same on their side with their variants. But the main models, 4 to 5 on the Tesla side, 21 of theirs. So Osborning, this is why there is no chance, again, unless these vehicles were ready to enter production and start replacing the current product and channel, where Tesla could take down their 3-in-Y material orders, take down their 3-in-Y CapEx in the factory, and start converting it. There's no way that they're going to introduce that compact and show the compact vehicle to people, because those 3-in-Y orders would have dropped. The parts would have been on order, the liability would have been building up, and you would have had a balance sheet disaster for the company. So they're managing this flawlessly. Another company that does this very well is Apple. They do a very good job of transitioning product and channel and minimizing E&O. It could destroy your gross margins in an instant. So that's why that they didn't show a 25K vehicle. They will show the 25K vehicle when that thing is literally rolling through the factory and ready to enter the channel.
But they actually did show it, which is it's this one vehicle.
Well, I should say the 25K vehicle. I'm sorry, the interim lower cost vehicles. They will show that when it's ready to enter. When it's ready to enter a channel. When they showed the Cybercab, they told you, they're like, we're 2 years. They basically said, you have 2026, for that product. And so when you're a prospective buyer of product, you're not, that's starting to get outside of the window of like, should I wait or should I, you're not going to have an Osborning event. And it's a 2-seater Robotaxi too. So it was a different category of product. These interim low cost vehicles, they're going to seat probably 4 people, probably 5 people. And, they could be competing in terms of directly competing with Tesla's, and product that they have currently in channel. That's why they didn't show it.
Okay, so we had 2 bets, and I think it was a 50-50. So I won one, which is they did not roll out a supervised nationwide Tesla network. But then you won one, which is I was pretty sure that they were going to launch a kind of a 2-seater car, but not a compact car, but something optimized for experience where you could turn into 4-seater, a little bit bigger form factor. I was wrong. It was a 2-seater Robotaxi. You've been saying this pretty strongly that this is what it's going to be, and you will explain why they did this. And one of the reasons is that if you go this route, you're going to go really, really low cost, but you're changing the business model completely. The business strategy. This is Brett Winton from ARK Invest amazing the degree to which people can't conceptualize how business strategy will change to suit a new business model. These experts clearly have no understanding of the underlying economic and business logic trade-offs at play here. Per mile economics, you've been hammering that home, are heavily driven by cost of vehicle and energy efficiency. You could seat 4 by taking sacrifices against both, or you could seat 2 and meet 90% of demand, and then you have your 3 and Ys ready for those less than 10%. Do you want to speak about that before we go right to the like all the ways that Tesla has cut the cost because of the way they designed this vehicle? Do you want to just speak to per unit while this is so critical?
Yes, this is this is most of it. You've got to obviously get the product. You have to get the engineering right on autonomy. Otherwise, none of this works. But the other thing is you have to have the product. When I say the product, you have to know how consumers or people are going to use your product, and you have to make sure you're fitting that purpose. And the other side of it is you can't. This has to economically scale, and you can't just tragically overspend in areas. And this is what kills scale. This is why you're not seeing millions of spinning propeller Robotaxi products out on the road right now. Because it started as some of these things start as a prototype operation, and they're trying to get it to some medium level of scale, and they won't economically scale the way they are. They've got to get the cost down so that their successive generations are getting the cost down. Tesla starts from the production solution, and then they figure out how to get it engineered, and so it comes out. It starts as a production solution from day one, and not this kind of prototype operation that's out there. So the unit economics of the vehicle and of that system are critical. If you get it wrong, you won't scale. Even if you have the best autonomy, the best of everything, it won't scale. And once you focus on those unit economics of the vehicle, then you have to focus on the unit economics of the support apparatus around the vehicle, how they're cleaned, how they're maintained, how they're charged, and all this whole thing has to work together. And you have to have a model that works, and then you start there. And I believe that's what Tesla is doing in their engineering for that month. They're saying it's going to take us a couple of years to get to this. Where I think others have hey, we want to start giving rides out now. Okay, well here's what that. But there's no certainty on what they're doing if it can actually economically scale.
Yeah. This is what I'm understanding from both of you. And of course, I'm going to show a quote from Elon that when you roll out Robotaxi, you're going to do it at scale. It's you might test out slowly, but then it's meant to go for scale. So it's going to be slow at the beginning. We've all waiting for it. Why didn't it happen yesterday? But when it happens, it's going to go big, millions. So here's Elon talking about this. He said, Tesla has economies of scale and a technology architecture that make it extremely difficult, unless I'm missing something major, for others to compete. AJ had a good list of the observations on the RoboCab, the Cybercab, why it shouts cost savings. And this is, again, I just repeat myself, but this is things you've been saying before, that you will see how this is not cheap, but it is designed the way it needs to be designed so that it can be mass produced. So very simple design, makes for very low production costs, highly aerodynamic, very similar shaped vehicle already exists. I don't know about that. No glass roof, right? It's a simple panel itself. Simple hood panel, high straight cut line makes for easier alignment and assembly. First Tesla with framed windows, cheaper, easier to build. Seals last longer, acoustic benefits. No rear window, saves various components, lowers complexity. No glass, no cables, no labor for setting the glass panel, significant weight saving. Side windows, one pane, often broken into two. This case, it's just the one pane. Rear comprised of a minimal number of components. One large panel, one light strip, second smaller panel. Very low cost seat design, no expensive stitching. It's possible the seat is not even motorized. I don't know if that's true. However, it's possible this is due to being a prototype. Small minimalist center console, very simple door panels, right? So in the door panels, there is not even a cup holder, so you can't leave garbage in, but it's a very simple just door panel. No small rear or side window, no steering wheel, steering column, no steering assist, no accelerate pedal. typical minimalistic dashboard. So a similar design was applied under the hood too. You've been talking about that too. Yes, I'll keep repeating myself all the times you said it's actually even underneath it, the things there is going to go for scale. So, this is the design. It was very beautifully done. It was very done in purposefully to reduce cost. And then, of course, we could talk about this too. I'll play that while you're talking.
Yeah, even in the cleaning operation, if you look at the seat design, they don't have the typical pocket for the seat. So that vacuum can drag across, and the seams aren't as deep as you would see in another vehicle. So all these things are meant for single plane access and to be able to go across in kind of one motion and come back. And what you're trying to do there is you're trying to minimize robotic movement, you're trying to minimize time, and you're trying to minimize the complexity of that cleaning robot so you can scale those as well. And I believe Tesla is going to take another pass at that too and continue to try to simplify it. We're just seeing kind of the version 1 of it. They're going to continue. Tesla has a program running right now. It's the Cybercab program. And there's a team focused on, the vehicle and its manufacturing, its engineering, its manufacturing of getting that vehicle out, the unboxed model. And then you have this whole apparatus around it, which is the fleet management, the maintenance of the vehicle. How can you make access to certain things easier? How can you make disassembly easier for the consumer to get? Maybe the consumer will have access to things that, or the fleet manager will have access to things that we haven't had access before in our cars. It's happening right now in consumer electronics with right to repair, and maybe that will start becoming more apparent on vehicles as well. So this vehicle is really just kind of a rip everything up, everything that you've known before. But obviously, you want to carry that knowledge forward of like, how do I make a vehicle that does well in crashes and rollovers and so forth. So that knowledge has to carry forward. But in terms of like what's needed in a vehicle, like what's pure aesthetics versus what's needed for functionality, I think that debate went back and forth inside of the company, and it goes back to that mantra Elon says all the time: the best part is no part. And then the other thing is they're trying to minimize. It's a process time thing. They're trying to minimize everything possible. So I know there's a lot of speculation on the materials. What is it made of? I don't think we know, and I think there's more to come on that. But if anything, it's probably going to be highly customized to Tesla, but something that they could scale.
Yeah. So the big question everybody's asking is, what's the actual cost for this Robotaxi? Elon did say it's going to be $30,000. And the question is, does that $30,000 include FSD or doesn't? And limiting factor, Jordan says, I think the Robotaxi is going to cost less than $30,000, including the cost of FSD, right? Because you have to have FSD to be able to drive this Cybercab. So if the production cost is going to be less than $20,000, there's going to be $10,000 of profit. I don't know, but $10,000. But it's possible that, he said $30,000. That probably includes FSD. And if you remove FSD and have the Cybercab, then it's going to be the $25,000 car. What's your guess?
It has to ship with full self-driving in it. So I think right now that's not an add-on in the bill of material. It's in the software bill of material for the product, and it's in the unit economics. And remember, people use the word cost and price interchangeably here. The cost of the vehicle is how much it costs them to produce it. The price of the vehicle are what consumers and fleets are going to pay for it. And so I believe they're targeting to keep this thing under. So I believe there's going to be a little bit of confusion in the beginning, because when they're not at full, they're going to launch the vehicle. And I believe they're going to launch it at a level of scale that they've never launched other vehicles before at. And they're going to have a lot of product out there. But it's not going to be at full scale for probably 12 to 18 months. Well, Tesla's cost to build it in month 0 versus month 18 are going to be two entirely different numbers. Obviously, it's going to be much lower when it's at full scale. Similar conversation that we're having on Cybertruck, hopefully much less complexity. So maybe they get, it's called that time to volume metric, and maybe that time to peak volume, I should say. Maybe that time to peak volume is going to be 18 months or so on the Cybertruck, maybe 20 or more. On this vehicle, maybe it can be less, maybe it can be 12, maybe it can be 10 months. We'll see. But there's going to be some confusion in the beginning because it's going to be several $1,000s of difference in terms of Tesla's cost to build it when they're not at scale versus when they're at peak scale and peak velocity. Their costs are going to be much, much lower. So I believe Tesla may change the pricing game. I think they have to talk about it in terms today based on what people are kind of aware of. And like Elon said, it's going to be somewhere around 25 to 30,000. But I believe the vehicle will mostly be sold, in some sort of installment plan, whether it's per mile, whether it's, some other installment that, the smartphone industry went through the same thing. Is we were ramping up the features in these products and putting all this software and all this capability inside of it. The cost structure was ballooning. We're like, are people going to be able to, to buy these things, every year? And the answer, you kind of partner with carriers and retailers around the world and say, let's just move this to a monthly installment plan. And that's how most smartphones and tablets are purchased today. And I believe the model is going to change for how these things are purchased, but Tesla will definitely be targeting a much lower. I think that if I'm Tesla, I'm targeting somewhere between, 17.5 and $20,000 in COGS for this vehicle. That's the target I have on the team, and I probably give them one target, which would be the 17.5, and then we figure out what the trade-offs are to get there, and do they actually, do they start trending over and actually destroying functionality that's critical to the offering or not? And you just got to keep grinding at it. So, but I believe they've made most of these decisions. The variance you heard in Elon's voice is in the engineering phase, and as they deal with suppliers, there's still some things they probably have not solved yet that could vary a certain degree. And when you're, let's say they're, I don't know, are they 14 months out? Are they 16 months out from production? Somewhere in that area, 12 months. When you have that much time, there can be a number of things that change. You want to give yourself some wiggle room. That's not uncommon. You usually have anywhere from 1% to 2% variance. You want to minimize to from when you've decided on what your product is that you're engineering to when you enter production. You want to be able to call that within a few percent.
Perfect. Okay. We got so much to talk about, but the lower the cost you can make that Cybercab and create it at massive scale, which even obviously supports your cost structure, the more you can reduce the price of the unit economics, therefore the price of the service, and who can catch up at that point.
Let's spend a minute on that, Herbert. I believe the prize that they're targeting from an engineering and from an supply chain perspective is mass. And it's a mass and materials discussion. It's a, can we delete the part or can we combine two parts together discussion? But the mass thing is critical. I believe they're going to be going for a very small battery in this product. And we saw the job posting for LFP, engineering. It looks like, okay, this could be a number of things, by the way. Tesla could truly be committed to starting this process and doing their own battery. That could also be a message to the supply base of, I don't like the pricing you're giving me for next year. And therefore, like you've seen with me do in the past with lithium ion, with other chemistries, with the 4680, good or bad, I'm in the lithium refining, I'm going to go and I'm going to do my own. And I just have to have that because, it's also good for Tesla from a supply chain robustness perspective to not be solely dependent, if this is all LFP based, to not be solely dependent on their competition and other suppliers. BYD and Cattle are the two biggest suppliers of this. And so I saw that posting for Tesla doing LFP, and that triggered like, okay, this could be they are doing it, and they may be doing it, and it can also serve a dual purpose to send a message to the supply base of I need lower pricing a couple years out. I need lower pricing now probably, but also I need it a couple of years out. But this whole thing there's a mass thing here that's happening. And by the way, the wireless charging piece of it, this has been debated, till the cows come home. There are, and I'd love to sit down and be able to sit down with the parts on the table and kind of talk through it with the team. The cost structure for wired charging is widely known. That's what all the vehicles are made with today. And on the wireless side, I believe that they're going to have a significant opportunity here to drive cost savings that are not readily apparent. The wear on connectors today, the performance issues that didn't charge or what have you, and the replacement of these connectors, that's all going to go away. And so there's going to be some hidden cost savings with going to wireless, but there's certainly going to be cost adders. You're going to have transmitter, you're going to have a receiver, and there's net adds, but there's a lot of deletions, and there's a lot of like high dollar part deletions that are occurring. So this wireless transition is also interesting. There's really not a charge port on there. That's another very bold move, I think, for the company to make. But quite frankly, I know this is coming out in 2 years, but 5 years from now, I think everything will be wireless charging. So I thought that was another really interesting
So
thing.
you're creating a Robotaxi service, and he's thought of everything: lowest cost car, cleaning, automated cleaning, wireless charging, and the network, and be able to use consumers and partners. So, okay, and the next topic here is, who was the audience for this 1010 We Robot event? And of course, the big thing that came out was all these people hating on the event. Sean McGuire, this post actually went, I think 60 million people went viral. I was surprised to see the Tesla hate today. I was at the event last night and I was blown away. Tesla had 30 humanoids walking around. It's actually 20, untethered, interacting for hours with hundreds of humans getting close. This is all true. Untethered is a big deal. Hardware is 10 times harder than software, and Optimus was rock solid. Elon replied to him saying, "The press gets grumpy when we don't invite them. Better if people just see video clips from the event and judge for themselves." Well, one of the people that was there, and apparently quite a number of folks that were there, are actual potential customers like Mark Benioff, and he's talking about Robot Force. He's talking about Salesforce partnering with Tesla to get robots and have an agent force, empower every customer touch point. So I guess customer service people, people standing there, ticket counters to healthcare, to retail stores. Can Salesforce Customers 360, Data Cloud, and Agent Force ensure ethical, transparent, angelic intelligence through a robotic layer? A world where innovation meets trust, delivering trust, seamless, automated experience ever. Is he setting himself up? He's friends with Elon to say, give me all those bots, we'll power them. They'll be the new retail store, customer service rep. What's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I mean, Mark, I sent a tweet out this. Mark knows.
Yes, he
knows
follows
business.
you. He follows you. Yeah.
Besides, I mean, he knows a few things about partnerships and business, and he was literally he's in the other part of that post is he had videos of Optimus and doing various things. So he's the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, and he's not making that post for no reason. So your question was, who is at that event? Well, obviously there were shareholders at the event, and there were analysts at the event. There were some Wall Street analysts at the event, institutions, and I believe there were a lot. I mean, I saw them, and I saw some, and I recognized some. There are a lot of CEOs and corporate executives at this event. And I'm not going to talk about the number. I don't know what the exact. I don't work for Tesla, so I don't know the exact number. But I believe. Here's what I believe, and this is just seeing with my own eyes. I went to the AI Day in 2022. Tesla was very public. This is a recruiting event, and there were some shareholders at the event, but there's a lot of young college kids and just young engineers at the event, and Tesla's really trying to woo them to come in and to work on AI at Tesla. And that was the event where the first Optimus was kind of walked out. It was the first Optimus. We saw it for the first time, and it was amazing. I was in the third row. I loved it. So 2022 recruiting event, showing off the engineering prowess, 4-hour event. That was 2022. sorry, 22. Now 24, 2 years later, Optimus is 2 years old and doing what you see in the video. And guess what? It's still a recruiting event, by the way. What engineer would see what Tesla is building here and what they're doing and the vision for the future and not want to work at this company? I mean, so it's still a recruiting event, but it wasn't. The invites didn't go out that way. The invites now went out to shareholders and corporate partners, business executives, and so forth, because that robot could do so many things for so many different companies right now, where labor is a core piece of their cost structure. And not only labor, but the productivity side of I just want to be able to do more with less, or just be able to do more from a business perspective. So the 2024 event was showing a little bit more of the future, but now bringing in the partners, saying, all right, how are we going to work together? And now these people, for the first time, could see the 20 humanoids walking around them, interacting with them. They could see what Tesla is doing. And I believe we saw a chairman of Stellantis at the event as well. There were other people. So this was now saying, all right, it's time to partner with us. It's time to work with us. And this is the single biggest thing that is not properly modeled about this company, which is, what is the sum of parts value of the company? Because today it's like, Tesla's going to build this. Tesla's going to ship this. I put it in the spreadsheet. This is what I think the earnings are going to be over the next 2 years. But what if that output is, instead of that output going to customers, now what if it's going to partners? And now what if partners are buying FSD? What if partners are buying Optimus? What if partners are buying software? What if partners are sourcing other things that Tesla only knows how to do? Well, then the sum of the parts valuation of the company, it goes into the strat. And again, I'm not trying to I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just saying that I'm just looking with my own two eyes, that we just talk about what's the earnings per share, what are they going to do the next quarter, how many cars are going to ship, and so forth. And that's the right conversation to have in the near term. But when you start thinking about Tesla just a little bit further out, is instead of them shipping cars to customers, what if it's software to other companies? What if it's humanoids to other companies? What if it's leasing models? What if it's all these number of avenues? And I just don't think that anybody has this properly modeled or thought through, because it's very difficult to do. But by the attendance, and your original question, by the attendance of people there, the clear objective was to really say, this is what we're building. It's exciting. It's real. You can touch it with your own, hands. And if you don't get it, by the way, in these partnerships, if you don't get in early, the pricing, the availability, where you kind of rank as a customer in terms of all that starts to fade out and becomes worse terms for you. So it's really incumbent upon you, if you're a partner, to get in. If you think it's the real deal, is to get in early as possible. That's how you would get the best terms.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jeff. Every single topic today, we covered so much about the cost creation of these compact cars, what's going to happen to them, what was built into them, the partnerships now. Appreciate it so much, Jeff. Everybody's been waiting for your reaction to the event. Please follow Jeff at the Jeff Lutz on X. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.